The Book of Honey, by Auntie Dee, Chapter 18, Mannford Cross, August 24th, 2030. Honey, one morning Auntie Dee wakes me with a tap at the door. Not to say I slept much at all. Between all that was happening and my sudden moment toward William, I had no chance of getting any sleep. I would just lay there trying to rein in my thoughts so they would leave me alone long enough to pull off this move. I dressed in brown today to seem unnoticeable. It's a color that is often overlooked. The duller it was, the better. As I grab my stuff, Auntie Dee gives me a paper bag full of food. I stuffed 2 sandwiches down and milk. Rolled up the rest and put it away for later. Then she walks me downstairs. When Uncle Bruce is waiting for me, I was surprised to see him. He asked me, "Hey, are you ready for this?" His expression was the same as always, but there was something behind his silence today. I didn't like that he wasn't going to be here, while I was hiding under his people. I shrug and say to him, "As much as I can be." We stood there not saying anything, but I broke the silence. "I thought you were leaving." "Yes, I'll be leaving with your caravan outside." We figured that all eyes would be pointed to me being with you. Providing cover so they'll be looking the other way if they're watching. I wanted to see you off before I go so I can get my resolve in place. I nod and tell him, "You know we have words to say to one another, right?" Uncle Bruce says to me, "Yep, painfully aware, right now I don't dare to say or face those things. So, I'm going to go kick ass across the world in a way that I'm good at. Then once I've busted all the skulls that I want, maybe I'll be able to say what I want to. Besides, it is my job to keep all eyes on me, so Miss Red can't see straight." I told Uncle Bruce, "I will be waiting, you'd better come back." Uncle Bruce says, "Aw, my girl, you and my queen are waiting here for me. That is all I need to get my ass right back here as fast as I can." I nod and say, "Then I guess I will be seeing you, Uncle Bruce." Uncle Bruce tells me, "You absolutely will, honey." I hugged Uncle Bruce. It was so much easier than I thought it would be. I would truly miss this man. Then we turned our backs on each other and walked away. Auntie Dee leads me to the basement of the house, and there was a large wooden door that opened to a ladder that led down. We say our goodbyes. I see William down at the bottom waiting for me. He was dressed like a maintenance man. I had to turn my head and laugh. I coughed to cover it up. When I got to the bottom, he says, "Hello, ready to go?" William seemed more focused than I'd ever seen him. "So," I say short and sweet. "Yep." "Then let's be off, we have a ways to go." "Lead on." William was walking with his phone out, following a map with our route on it. I wasn't expecting what I saw. With a well-lit tunnel and tiles on the walls, it was a little musky, and pretty clean overall. We walked along for some time as I was admiring all the different designs and colors to be found in the tunnels. I say out loud to myself, "Wow, this is a nice tunnel." William must have heard me without looking up from his phone. He says absently as he is still following his phone, as well as keeping his eyes open and alert. "Oh, yes, I agree, this is one of the better ones that I have been in as well." Dr. Melida told me she has people who come and do maintenance and cleaning. I asked William. Why would there be people that clean old tunnels? William looks up at me to say, there is a lot of history in places like this around London. During the bombings of London, there was a good percentage of people living and doing business down here. Nowadays they mostly throw parties and underground nightclubs. I say, you seem to know a lot about it. William tells me, you're kidding, right? I am a chief superintendent in His Majesty's Metropolitan Police. It may seem like that since Beck has been around, I've fallen into lackey mode. I've had all kinds of cases outside of my work with Beck. I will say this is downright fancy for an underground place. I couldn't help to hear the point of pride William has for his job. I found it interesting to hear him talk about the things he did, so I asked him, what kind of cases have you worked on? He starts listing them off. Let's see, homicide, narcotics, international manhunts. I cut my teeth on those in the CIA training with Beck. I have some political connections as well. My bosses like to throw me high-profile cases that need a lot of red tape cut. The last time I was walking with William alone, all he could do was try to fill the void between us with charming small talk. Now that I'm free to talk more openly with him, his mind was focused on doing his job. This was the first time seeing him do this with my own eyes. I didn't mind letting go a bit with him. This is something I never do unless I trust the person I'm with undoubtedly. William likes to use small talk to open people up, but learned the last time he had tried it wouldn't work on me like that. I have come to rely on William in all the time that we have known each other. So, I ask William, how did you come by your political side? He lets out a large sigh. I was born into it on both sides of my family. That is also how I met Beck. He recommended me when I was first starting at New Scotland Yard. I used my family connections to get myself a higher position, which most thought I wasn't qualified for. William says to me, I figured that if I start in a higher place, proving along the way I was capable every time they thought I wasn't. It all seems to have worked out. Here I am, chief superintendent, escorting you through London's finest underground tunnel, doing a job most people in my position would hand off to someone down the line. Not knowing if William was being resentful, I ask, do you mind doing this kind of stuff, William? He tells me, oh, no, I always know when I work with Beck, I'm in for some legwork. It's a refreshing change of pace because I get to step away from desks and screens and work with others. Not a lot of people in my department like to do government projects, because the feds usually walk away with all the credit. I say, you seem to thrive working this kind of job. He tells me, I do. It allows me to meet new people in different positions. You never know when a chance meeting will lead to a perk you might need in the future. William talked very enthusiastically about all the different things and places his job took him and the types of people that he deals with. I asked a few questions but mostly let him talk as we walked along. He is very serious and passionate about his job. Then he says, figuring out how to work the system and the people in it is a challenge I like to solve. This strikes me as a very conceited thing to say. I also understand what he is saying. I often had to make deals with others to get what I wanted. People might think players like me and William are manipulative and petty, but sometimes bargaining will get you closer to your goal. Whether you mean what you say or not. I make a very edgy comment to William to see what he will do. I worked with William a lot while I was doing work for Uncle Bruce. We've had a few brief conversations on phones and over chat rooms. I've missed his in-person reactions. I've often imagined the look on his face at some of the more unusual things I've passed on to him. I'm not going to miss this chance to do a bit of poking. I say boldly. So, is that the reason behind all the fake that hangs all over you? He stopped walking to look at me. His tone was a bit sharp. He asks me, "What is that supposed to mean?" Not discouraged by his tone, I say boldly, "Well, when we first met you were all charming, with smiles, handshakes, and cheesy suits. You very much tried to lead me into spilling my guts." He ignored all the things I said to complain about one. He asked, "You thought it was cheesy?" That made me want to laugh, so I said, "Just a little bit. But I'm starting to understand it's the fake you use. Like me, you get yourself in and out of places. The difference being you convince people to let you in. I'm very impressed by the game you play." He takes another deep breath. He looks at the ceiling, then he begins walking again. I didn't know how to take his reaction when he says, "In that world, if you don't have just the right touch, they will know you don't belong. They're like sharks that way." That seemed like all William had to say at the moment. We walked in silence for a time. I think about the things we've talked about. But then I start paying closer attention. I checked my phone. We had been down here for about 2 hours. William saw me check. He says to me, "We have about a 3-hour walk to go." Okay. Aside from being a well-lit tunnel, there were all sorts of things down here. Like electric relay stations. I heard the humming pass through the lines. Sometimes it was a straight flat walk. Others were extremely up or downhill. There were signs that people had been here like trash. I could also hear the sounds of underground trains. I knew that some of these places led to the Tube. London's subway system. There was a turn coming up. I hear a train pass by in the distance. Then all of a sudden there was a feeling in the air. My skin was starting to itch and crawl. I stopped suddenly and grabbed William by the arm. He looked at me. I held my finger to my lips and pointed to the ground. There was a large shoe sticking out at the corner of the turn. William nods to me and pulls out his gun. We pressed ourselves up against the opposite wall and moved forward slowly. William announces calmly and slowly, "If someone is there, I suggest you come out slowly with your hands where I can see them." He came out with his hands up. Out steps a large man in black street clothes. His head was covered by a hoodie. But I could see the piercing blue of his eyes staring at William and me. Mannford Cross was standing in front of us. The scariest motherfucker I have ever known. I turned to step between William and Mannford. Looking at William, I say to him, "William, don't shoot him, he's here because of me." William can't pull off Uncle Bruce's face of nothing but stone. I could see the rage in William's eyes. But he manages a calm, quiet tone. He asks, "What is this, honey?" William doesn't lower his weapon, stepping between me and Mannford. But when he just stood there, I figured he wanted to hear what we had to say. When Mannford lowered his hands and placed them in his pockets, he greets me as usual. "Hello, honey, my girl, how are we this fine Tuesday?" It is Tuesday, right? I get down to business with Mannford, keeping my tone even and serious, saying straight and forward. "Shut the fuck up, Mannford. Do you have to be the scariest motherfucker everywhere you go? I swear to God, I would rather be smiled at by a shark than Mannford. At least with the shark, you knew what they wanted." He says to me mockingly, bashfully trying to play it cute with me. "Sorry, honey, you know it's an occupational hazard." William cut us off demandingly, saying, "The both of you had better explain this to me now." William says in a low voice. One I'd never heard from him. It was an edgy anger. Not liking his tone very much, but I knew I had no room to complain right now. I tell William, "All right, I didn't tell you because I couldn't let Uncle Bruce know that Mannford is working with me. I messaged him a couple of days ago but had no clue if he'd be here. He never responded." I look at Mannford with gritted teeth. He responded to me this time darkly. "You already know I can read half of your messages and respond to none. By the way, I heard about your untimely demise." I roll my eyes at him and say, "Yeah, I'm sure you were just choked up about it." Mannford says to me, "You cut me so deeply, honey. You know I am downright fond of you as a person." I continued to explain to William. So, in case Mannford didn't show up, I didn't want anyone to know. Seeing him here tells me two things. Victoria doesn't want him to give her away. When she's on her own, she's good at blending in. Next, she has let Mannford off the hook to go hunting. William stiffens and keeps his gun on Mannford, who didn't even bother to raise his hands again. He asks Mannford without flinching, "When you say hunt, what do you mean?" William asked Mannford without even a hint of fear. I was very impressed and would have to tell him so later. Mannford explains to William, "That means I've been sent to look for loose ends. Victoria thinks some things aren't adding up and wants me to look around for bugs. Thinking that someone we brought with us tipped your people off. Bruce Beck didn't just stumble across us in the dark. I came to see that Honey was at the bottom of the river with Dan for myself. See, here she is below the river. What a shame. I know Victoria will miss you." I just shake my head. William asks Mannford, "So, what the hell are you doing here for? You are a very wanted man, and I know a few people besides myself that would like to clap you in chains." Mannford turns a smile on William. This pisses me off when I see him give William a scan from head to toe. It was in the same way I saw Gurney, the waitress, gave William the last time I saw him. Mannford says to William in a very flirty tone, "Now don't be getting me all excited like that, mate. No making promises of a good time if you don't mean to deliver." William says nothing that comment, but I swear I see a shiver run down his spine. Mannford says to us, I'm just here swapping stories with Honey. I've found nothing to tell Victoria about yet. It will be a while before she expects me to check in. Mannford gives William a wink. William puts his gun away finally but slowly. I sigh just a little when Mannford says to me, still looking at William with a hot gaze, "Honey, where'd you find him? He's a cutie." I brought up my grin of death and destruction, hoping would get the message across to Mannford not to touch. All I say to him is one heavy word. Mannford. That was all I said when he gave me a look. Then William. Back to me, he says. Aw, look at you, being all territorial. I think I like it better than the obedient, submissive dummy you were always playing at. I smirk at him. Yeah, me too. Do you know how exhausting it is, Mannford, to pretend to be stupider than you are? He tells me. Oh, dearie, that is my whole life. William snaps at the two of us. Get on with it, the both of you. I nod and ask Mannford. Where is she, Mannford? I see the surprise on William's face. When Mannford says, when I left Victoria, she was in Paris. She told me to take a hike. She has taken off her wig and is walking around dressed like an old lady. I asked, where was she last? Arc de Triomphe. That is the large arch in France. Mannford gives a detailed description of Victoria and what she was wearing when he last saw her. I asked him, do you know where she's headed? He shakes his head. I hesitated for a sec, then I asked him what I wanted. But Mannford knew I would ask. How are my kids, Mannford? This was the thing I was most worried about. He tells me. They're doing all right. I called to my guys watching them. Some of them caught wind that you weren't coming back and freaked. I knew you would be asking. Where did she move them? Spain. They're nearby at least. By the way, JJ showed up 5 days ago. Mannford tells me. Yeah, I was told he was missing right before we were to pick up the drop. Knowing that JJ slipped by Mannford's watch put a smile on my face. If he didn't know JJ was gone until H checked in, Victoria wouldn't know either. Mannford smiled right back at me. He knew I was pleased with myself, and a plan was being formed. Mannford accuses me. Aw, I know that look, you figured something out. I said. I've got a tale for you to spin. I ask William, who is still keeping his eyes on Mannford. William, how long do we have till we exit, and how long can we take our time? He looked at his phone. We have 2 hours, but if you're fast, they won't come looking for us. I'll tell them my phone went out inside one of the tunnels and I got us turned around. He didn't sound happy, but I was glad he was playing along. I asked him to make sure. Does Victoria know that JJ was gone, Mannford? Not that I know. She doesn't know anything. From the time I left her 3 days ago. I only learned about you and the rest when I doubled back and got your messages. Truth be told, I thought the bunch of you were blown to pieces when she hit the red button on her phone. I smiled and said to Mannford, oh well, it did blow something up. Just not us. Mannford asked me very pointedly. What did you do, honey? I shrugged. I wasn't going to travel with that thing over my head the whole way. So, it was misplaced. Mannford tells me. Well, it's a good thing you're dead, honey. I say to him. Okay, whatever. Mannford hears the story you spin. JJ went rogue to follow me. We both know he had plenty of reasons to want me dead. Mannford says. Yes, we do, don't we? His face came up on the international hit list. For a bunch of crimes for a long time ago. He was flagged and followed. That is what alerted them to the drop. I've got to make a few phone calls. I start drafting a text to Uncle Bruce. When Mannford asks me, where is JJ currently? I smiled again, this time my bone-chilling smile of death. William here picked him up after he took a dumpster dive. Now he's in lockup unconscious with no ID. Not a damn thing to say. Mannford says. Oh nice, that will make this easy. When you can blame someone that completely deserves everything that is coming to him. The wheels in my mind were turning. I almost had it all together. I needed time to think about it. Guys, I need to puzzle this together, so can we walk and talk at the same time? I was looking at William, who at this point was very quiet. William tells me, we can, but he has to peel off an hour and my people can't see him coming unless you intend to take him with us. I say, no, let's go. I whip out my phone, texting as fast as I can, and we walk on. I send the first text, then 2 more. Everything is ready. I was mostly talking to myself. I made a phone call. He picks up the first ring. I thought the two of us just had a long goodbye. He stops when I greet him. Well, hello Uncle Bruce. Everything is just fine. I say my opening line and he knows to stop and pay attention. He asks, what can I do for you, my girl? I asked him, are you still in town, Uncle Bruce? He tells me, yes, ma'am, I am. I say, good, I have 2 pieces of pie for you. He tells me, aw, you know I like me some pie. I tell him very carefully. I figured, the first one is a hot red mess of a cherry pie, last seen on foot walking around Arc de Triomphe. The next one is a sweet cream pie from Spain. That one may be a little out of your way. I've sent you the location by the easy way. My hands were in a hurry. The last thing is I need you to spread some gossip about my friend JJ. The details are also in your inboxes, him. I knew he would have to look it over before he'd say yes. I hear a whistle. I know I got him hooked when he says, how did you find these pies? I tell him, you know me, Uncle Bruce, I have birds tweeting at me from all over. I still have a few accounts open to my friends. Uncle Bruce says to me, I will see what you left me and pick the right pie for me. Don't worry about Mr. JJ, he will be so wanted, everyone will want a piece of him. I press the more important points of the conversation. Do know that the cream pie may not be available for long and the cherry pie may just show up at the shop. If she does, I don't know where they will be going. Uncle Bruce said, I'll keep that in mind when weighing my options. I say. Thank you, Uncle Bruce. He says. No problem, my girl. He hangs up. Mannford asks. Was that Bruce back? God, I love that man's work. William says. How do you know Beck? Mannford tells William. Ah, I don't only by reputation, I love the way Victoria squirms when he starts sniffing around, he's like a wolf that way. William asks Mannford. What about you and Victoria? You don't seem like a man without intimidation. Mannford flashes William a smile. Oh, I like him, honey, he's a charmer, this one all smooth around the edges. I just give him a look and Mannford says. I and Victoria have too much history to be scared of each other. William keeps asking Mannford very seriously. With so much between you, why work with honey? William's not taking his eyes off Mannford. Mannford growls his next response to William, which made him hesitate to take another step. Honey is my girl, we are square in many things, and Victoria crossed me thinking I wouldn't notice what she had done. Her stupidity cost us years and money. If it weren't for that girl right there. Mannford pointed at me. None of us would be standing here right now, including Victoria. I haven't forgiven her for what she took from me. Then I say. Mannford, when are you getting out? If it weren't for the kids, I probably wouldn't be going back. I also have to paint a lovely picture to rattle the cage. I have some things to take care of. Why, are you wanting to know? I said. I'm making plans for myself and want to know if you want to come along. He tells me. What kind of plans are you making? How do you expect to compensate me? I am not an easy man. I tell him. Bet you didn't know I was a rich girl before we met. Mannford was surprised, but not much when he says. Nope, you never told me. I tell him. I want to hire you to work with me once I get myself put together. I also think my friends might be able to pardon you, so you can go anywhere you wanted if you decide to come work with me. Mannford is letting that roll around in his head for a while. That's a tempting offer. What would I be doing? I say. I want to make you my manager and trainer. I don't want to lose what I've got, and you are the only person that knows how to sharpen my blade. You have become such a little flatterer, my guess is you've let this one teach you a thing or two. I say to him. You have no clue all the things I've been hiding from you all this time, Mannford. He fakes shock. Well, that ain't nice, I thought we were friends. I say back. Like you've told me everything, Mannford. He paused for a moment. Guess that's fair, I'll let you know one way or another. William speaks up. Honey, it's about time we depart from Mr. Cross. The tone of William's voice was getting sharper each time he talked to me. Mannford says to William, ignoring his tone completely. I do like that, Mr. Cross. You say it so sweetly it makes me almost blush. This is where we part ways, darling honey. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you. No, I will be seeing you again. I nod and say. Thank you, Mannford, for everything. William says. There are plenty of exits along the tunnel. Mannford said to me and William. Yeah, I know. This here is my backyard. I'm a native if you didn't notice. It was nice stomping around my old ways. Bye, William. It was a pleasure to meet you. Take good care of my honey if you would. Mannford gives William a wink. That sends a shiver down my spine. He walks down the opposite tunnel from us, disappearing. When I look at William, I say, I guess it's time for us to book it. William doesn't even look at me when he says, yes, we'll be late if we don't.